Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And I'm Producer Dave.
And we are back for another edition of Get to Know the Horror Show. Now this one, some might argue, should have been the very first episode, but frankly it just didn't unfold that way, and you'll take what you can get, damn it. But no, what we are here to do is actually talk about the secret origin of the Horror Show channel. And quite frankly, this all wouldn't have been at all if it hadn't been for Producer Dave here. All over 850 episodes, probably more by the time you guys actually see this. None of them would have existed had it not been for Producer Dave. None of it.
Stop.
None of it, darling.
Stop.
None of it. No, but not only is Producer Dave the reason for this show, but he's also my oldest friend and my closest friend. We've known each other since we were 3 years old. We both were at the same preschool.
It's really fuzzy.
And then we went to the same grade school from kindergarten through 8th grade. And then we went to rival high schools.
Divorce. In high school.
Divorce.
We went to rival high schools.
Well, actually, we both did go through divorce and rival high schools.
Hence my
Yep, that was good. That was
origin
good.
story.
So anyway, we've known each other for quite a while.
Yeah.
We are the closest of friends. Some people even do mistake us for brothers at times, which
I think if
don't
we both
see.
go like this and kind of like tilt our heads and pretend I have a nice big beard.
Pretend I have glasses.
And no glasses.
You know. Anyway, David, you know, why don't you, or Producer Dave, or whatever. I've known him as David. Well, I don't know. It's ridiculous. But at this point, I think it's time for you to finally break the silence and explain just exactly how this lovely show came to be.
Basically, I was approached to develop a YouTube show to review independent and low-budget horror films that otherwise don't get a lot of attention or review or really anything. Like, for example, even if they do get reviewed, it's usually really negative, and there's no forgiving factor to independent artists doing what they can do with the money that they have. Mm-hmm. And in fact, the less money you have and the better you do stuff makes those great cult classic films. Mm-hmm. And so...
Can make those cult classics.
Can make those, exactly. So the whole point of this Project XYZ, was that, you know, maybe we can somehow bring some attention to independent horror artists. I had a background. I've worked on several different horror films. I've worked on dozens of movies, and a lot of them don't make it. But nowadays...
Nowadays, make it has a whole different definition.
In the old days, the way an artist would survive is to have Patreons, people who support that artist in whatever they do. Mm-hmm. So a guy could... You know, a painter needs paint, he needs food, he needs a certain amount of a salary to survive and live. And in return, you get his art. And so YouTube, in a way, allowed anybody to express their art. And this was one of the reasons why I feel like YouTube was a great medium to do something where you're trying to expose artists and review things from an angle less from the critical angle and more from the, here's what they did really good, here's what I liked about it, and here's what I didn't think worked.
Well, and we've maintained that spirit through the show,
right.
Honestly.
And that was part of what I wanted to really bring to the table from this XYZ project. Mm-hmm. And so we were looking for hosts, and we approached Cecil, and Cecil and I had already known each other, obviously. And in the end, the XYZ project didn't work out. Specifically on the lines where they wanted to stay really like along the lines of just reviews of these low budget, tailor-made, horror films, which is fine. But we had Cecil here, who, when I approached him, like I just explained to you, we had this very sort of like straight aerial idea, and then he came back with his own like notebook of ideas, and he's like, well, you guys have this idea for a show, but here's another idea for a show, okay? This show has sketches. It's got this. It's got that. It's got this. It's a variety show. It's got more than just one thing. And at the time when I was working on this project, I was like, well, that's really what YouTube's about. YouTube is about creating a direct approach to fans, to people who think the same way as you, people who might even hate you. And I mean, a big part of YouTube is a lot of expression of hate. So horror has one of the most friendliest fan bases.
It's so ironic that way. Friendly and loyal, quite frankly.
Project XYZ kind of fizzled out because, there was whatever. We're not going to talk about it. But this notebook was still in my thing, and Cecil and I were really good friends, and I was like, man, this is still a really cool idea for a show. So why don't we try to do something? And we didn't have any money, so what do we do?
Let me jump in here, and I'll catch up on my end, and we'll go where we went next, which was your connection.
Okay.
So basically, on my end of things, I got approached. By the way, this is a little bit of a get to know the horror show with booze episode, just a little bit.
I don't like appearing on camera. If you don't know this.
No, yeah, I had to ply Producer Dave with a little bit of alcohol to get him on camera to tell this story, but it needs to be told. But basically, he came to me from Project XYZ saying, hey, we're looking for a host for this thing, or we'll talk to local filmmakers about their projects and maybe go to colleges and talk to students about stuff like that to try and spread the word about these projects. I was like, okay, yeah, no, I mean, I could host something like that. And then I was thinking about it after I was told about it, and I'm like, yeah, but so wouldn't it be cool if we could talk to, other, more than just local filmmakers?
No, it wouldn't be cool.
No, not according to that.
I'm playing Project XYZ.
Yeah, not according to the leader of Project XYZ. But anyway, I was like, well, we could do, comedy sketches that are in the horror vein, or we could
we don't want to do that.
Scary shorts, or we could do, reviews every this day, and this day, and we'll do retro reviews on Friday, and we'll do new reviews on Monday, and we'll do this kind, and I was like, it'd be really cool to do that. And I'm like, well, what about doing something like this? And Dave's like, okay, well, let me go talk to, Project XYZ leader. And he came back to me and said, well, Project XYZ leader is saying this project has gotten bigger than he ever anticipated, and he just doesn't think it's in line with what he had in mind, so he's going to bow out.
Yeah, and that happens all the time with all kinds of creative projects.
It does.
Creative differences.
But here's the thing about Producer Dave and I. We've had a good upbringing, but we've also grown up knowing the value of stick-to-itiveness. So when Dave came to me with an idea and I sort of expanded on it with this bigger idea, and the idea was going to fizzle, I didn't want to let it fizzle. I was like, well, no, we could still do this,
Well, and that's the thing. Part of it was that we had access through Steve Wargo, he was a big part of the first two seasons of
SWAT HD,
and still is, occasionally part of the horror show family.
Well, he helped make sure that our first bigger budget or fully produced horror short Sweet was made, and that has recently been nominated in the as a finalist for the 2017 iHorror Awards.
Plug it.
So
I'd love to hear it.
That's really cool, and again, that wouldn't have happened without Steve Wargo and SWAT HD.
Well, and that's
support,
that's one of the things that when I went to college, one of the guys that we met was Steve Wargo, and he's a big part of what young filmmakers need is some old crotchety guy to tell you you're doing it wrong, because they do know what they're talking about, and they have the gear and experience that you don't have when it comes. I mean, you can be a young filmmaker and be like, oh, I know how to make a movie, but when it comes down to the logistics and the gear and the equipment and knowing how it all works together and how a crew really works, you do need that experience. And that's something that we had a little bit of magic to help the horror show when it was first starting out. We used his studio. We shot 25 reviews in a day. We would shoot 5 or 6 different shorts in a day. Yep. And then we'd put it all out, and then we'd be like, okay, well, now what are we going to do? And
well, that's the thing, yeah. I'll bring it back just again. Yeah. And when we finally decided to do it, I was like, okay, well, let's plan season 1, or the first run of the horror show episodes.
Funny story. I was going through some paperwork, and I still have the planned out every episode. Now, see, okay, let me talk to you a little bit about what a producer does. All right? Producer Dave means all I did was say, hey, Cecil, you want to make a show? And that entitles me to be the producer. So that's basically all I do. Just so you know.
And meanwhile, I went and, decided, okay,
everything
we
else.
could do this kind of episode.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, my idea to start was we'll do an episode a day, basically. We came up with 6 episodes every week.
Right.
And we would take Sundays off for the first season.
Yeah.
So we would do a new movie review, both a regular and a spoiler review of that movie on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah.
And then on Tuesday, we would do a how-to episode. And then on Thursday, we would do a comedy sketch.
Oh, God.
So we had 4 weeks worth of programming. It was about, 4 times 6 is, what is that? 24. But then you consider we had doubles of 3 episodes a week with the reviews.
Some of
right?
our podcasts are math.
No, but the
episodes
podcasts
as well.
were after season 1.
Right, okay.
So then we had 3 additional episodes every week. So we had 5 plus 3 more is 8. And then the Saturday episodes were the blooper episodes.
Right.
So then we actually had 9 episodes that we were airing every single week for the first season. And we cranked out essentially 40 episodes in the first month of the horror show's existence. But the way we did it was we filmed it all ahead of time, and I had pre-edited all of it.
Yeah.
So all of it was ready to be uploaded right when it needed to be.
It took 3 months to make the first season
Correct.
of the show.
Correct. And then we aired the entirety of the first season in, I think, February of 2014. Yes, it was. No, we started airing in
13.
January of 2014.
14. Okay.
No, we started uploading in January. We started airing in February.
Right.
So February of 2014 was the first airing of the horror show, and it was those 40 episodes. And then we were like, okay, that was fun, but it felt a little bit like we were doing it in a bit of a vacuum because we didn't have an audience yet, but we believed in it. And so we made season 2.
Well, and I think when I originally approached this new project, which quickly became the horror show, I think I left all that other stuff behind, and I kind of just said, hey, man, if you want to leave this carriage, I'll sit in the back. I'm cool with being
It was
like...
more than that.
Well, I mean, it's
You were there.
It's a team
producing
effort.
No, you were
obviously,
essentially directing those early episodes, though.
Yeah, I mean,
because I was in them all,
you need
and you
someone
were behind the camera. Yeah.
So you need someone that, like, obviously, I'm not.
So those first 40 episodes, which entail our earliest reviews, it was our first 12 reviews of the channel, and if you include spoilers, 24. And it's our first 4 comedy sketches and our first 4 how-tos, which was how to make fake blood, how to make a fake wound, how to make a zombie, and then one other how-to as well. But anyway, we got a lot done, and it laid the groundwork for what we wanted the show to be.
It's part of the overall strategy of the channel, because you have to have, if you want to actually put out content and try to reach people, you have to have a little bit of a strategy.
and a schedule.
Yeah. Well, and our strategy always been to build that tent. Get those 1,000 videos out. I mean, that's always been our goal.
Well,
to get 1,000
I've always
videos
been
out.
told from the beginning, and that's the thing. This all goes towards the origins, and that's from every bit of research that I did, which was listening to a lot of podcasts and watching a few YouTube videos.
Yeah.
That was that YouTube channels take 3 to 5 years to really catch on and find their audience, and the key to that success is consistency. You have to make sure you continue to upload and growth. But you have to make sure you continue to upload to grow.
Yeah.
Because YouTube takes that into consideration. And so even though we had finished season 1, I didn't want to stop.
Yeah.
So there was probably a good 8 months in between season 1 and season 2. But what we started to do then was we filmed a bunch of stuff for season 2, which was 4 new comedy sketches.
Right.
And then a few new how-tos as well. And then we filmed our first horror sketch, which was not good, because we filmed essentially a 7-page script in one night with no pre-production. And that was the new guys, so that was a little bit rough, but we were learning the whole way. But essentially, when we were starting out, I wanted us to keep going because I believed in what we had created, which from the beginning I said should be a horror variety show.
Yeah.
In the vein of the old-time TV shows where it was a little bit of everything, where we could do movie reviews, we could do how-tos, we could make horror shorts, we could make comedy sketches and blooper episodes, and now it's evolved to celebrity interviews, con coverage, trailer reactions, And essentially I always had the vision of doing everything under the horror umbrella. So it's a one-stop shop for horror fans. Even though we're not scary, we're scary informative. And we've grown into that idea tremendously.
Yeah. But putting all that into perspective, the horror show's origin really is your and I's fascination with film.
Yes,
and
that is true.
It began very early in our lives, and it has a lot to do with how we grew up and what happened to us as we were growing up.
I said it on the last episode of Get to Know the Horror Show and how we got into horror. I said, and I actually mistakenly said Child's Play 2, but I said my second exposure that I can genuinely remember to horror, first one was walking in on Jaws 2 in my parents' room. Oh, stop it. Everyone does that every time I say it. Jeez.
That's the way you say it.
Anyway, and my second experience was Producer Dave's 13th birthday party, which was to see Child's Play 3 in the theater. And that was my first film. Yeah. I think it was, I think that was first because that was 91, and then we saw Tremors, I think, in 92 in the theater. Either way, those were two really early experiences, but Child's Play 3 I remember from your party because it made me fall in love with not only Chucky, but the horror genre.
Yeah.
So, my love of horror goes way back to then because of you, when I was, 11 or 12, whenever that was. Whenever Child's Play 3 was, that's the first time I saw a horror movie in the theater, and it was because of Dave, and it was awesome.
Yeah, so I produced your horror fandom.
You did, you started it.
Producer Dave.
But anyway.
So that's what a producer does.
What happened next when we had to cast the show?
So, again, back to Project XYZ, part of the approach to XYZ was just, reach out and see if you could find a bunch of people who were interested in bringing that sort of perspective to, reviewing low-budget horror films. People who could love a movie even if it's a shit movie. Even if it's a crappy movie.
Mm-hmm.
You put out a big casting call through the usual local methods. There's online, there's emailing lists, there's Facebook, there's all kinds of ways to find people who are interested in being in a project or hosting people. And so that's how we met our first two hosts, Susie Manslaughter and Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an episode with Morgan. So, there's definitely a process to creating a show where you go through an audition process, blah, blah, blah. So once XYZ didn't happen, I still knew Susie and Rolo.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, you guys still want to do this kind of show?
Mm-hmm.
And they both wanted to, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So even from the audition process, I had already, basically, Cecil, you could consider us co-producers. We're both producers of the show. Mm-hmm. Meaning we both do, whatever's needed to be done for the show whenever they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but beyond producing, we've both acted in stuff. Obviously, he's one of the main hosts. I've never really wanted to be on camera too much, so...
But we convinced him to do Zed because he feels like it's not him when he's Zed.
Yeah, if you got a mask on, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
That's what was different about the show in my eyes. Different enough about the show in my eyes that it felt like a different thing. And they came on board, and they were awesome. They both nailed it. I mean...
In their different ways. Mm-hmm.
In different ways, definitely. The thing about horror fans is we come from all different kinds, and there's all different things that fascinate us about the horror genre. Some of us love the gore, some of us love the sex and nudity, some of us love the torture, some of us love the paranormal ghost.
Some love the real life stuff.
Yeah. So, it all serial killers, blah, blah, blah.
That's what I mean.
So, yeah. So it all comes down to all these sort of like twisted fascinations that we share in this horror genre. Mm-hmm. And the personalities that you need have to have a little bit of, a touch of the, obscure or weird or twisted. And that's fine because this is the age we live in now. Mm-hmm. Where it's okay to express yourself however you want to express yourself. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people who share that. Mm-hmm. And so the idea was, hey, let's get, a couple male hosts, a couple female hosts, and we'll have a show about horror. Mm-hmm. So let's just complete season 1. Mm-hmm. Basically, the origin of the show is we filmed it over 3 months, and then we put it out. And so we all kind of went separate ways after it was done for a while. Mm-hmm. Some of us had children. Some of us got new jobs.
Had the first of many children.
Some of us bought cars and
Or the
lost
second of
cars.
many children.
You know, I mean, there was lots of different things that happened in between season 1 and season 2, and even season 2 and season 3. But I think what we've evolved to is more of a group of friends who all get together twice or 3 times a week to put out current content rather than pre-filmed content that we filmed, you know, over a course of 3 months and then put it out. We try to film.
That is a key difference.
And I think for the most part, that's the only thing that's really changed about the strategy of the show or the way that we make the show. I mean, we've gotten better at it. They've gotten better at it. I used to sit behind the camera and just scream at these motherfuckers. I mean, they were terrible. They'd say,
all right. Well, we still say, but whatever. That's basically it, you guys. I mean, that covers most of the early stuff. If you have any follow-up questions, let us know in the comments down below, and we will try and answer them for you as best we can. But for right now, I think that pretty much covers the secret origin of the horror show. Again, we can expound on anything you like, but that's sort of the broad strokes of how everything came together. How we met everyone was next.
And,
yeah.
You know, I mean.
So, you know, let us know. What else do you want to know? And we'll start to answer those questions as well. We're going to be recording a bunch more in a couple days to answer the questions that we've gotten already on the first 2 videos. Only 2 have aired of the 3 that I have ready. This is number 4. And we're happy to do these for as long as you guys are interested. Please don't. Anyway, make sure you go to the link in the description box to go to our TeePublic site, or you can go to get our Coexist logo or our Horror Show Crew shirt or anything like that. But
he puts out 14 episodes a week or something like that.
I do. It's a lot.
Help him!
It's 2 episodes a day, guys.
Do it! I've been doing it!
Yeah. Appreciate it. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I've been Cecil Laird.
I've been Producer Dave.
And remember,
stay scared.
scared.
I beat you. That one time.
You're a jackass.